It's an absolute life-changing move to prioritize your obsession over your profession.
Every time I ask my audience, what video should I make? The answer is always the same. They say, tell me your weekly routine or tell me your day in the life. And what I've realized is what they want is they want to work out how to maximize their output whilst also living their dream life and actually enjoying themselves, not getting to the end of every single week and feeling like they're overbooked, overworked, they've been working really hard, doing all the stuff, expending all the energy, but they just haven't got anything to show for it. That is the last thing that any of us want. If this sounds anything like you, or if any of that resonates, this is the episode that you need to watch. So in this episode of Chats with Ben, we talk about our weekly routine, our daily routine, the tips, the frameworks, the exercises that we have put in place ourselves that we're gonna share with you so that you can maximize output, live your peak life, and love every single day. Here it is.
So I know that one of the most common questions you get is like, how do you spend your day? How do you actually create all this output? And I totally get that, because you're publishing articles on Forbes 3 times a day, you're training once or twice a day to compete in powerlifting, and also we're running an AI software business. And I think the kind of day in the life type thing is really interesting to see how like someone actually does their morning routine and how the day actually plays out and when do they get their work done. But I kind of think it's a little bit limited, and there's a few reasons for that. I think that firstly, not every day tends to be exactly the same. I think for most people, Monday is different to Wednesday, and Wednesday is probably very different to Saturday or Sunday. So it's a very like individual part of the week that you're looking at, and whether that kind of is that helpful or not, I think depends how that would kind of extrapolate over the course of a week. But also a kind of day in the life type video can be highly curated. And even if you did one that wasn't highly curated, how do people know that it's not? Because so many of them on the internet really are. So I think that has limited validation. But the other thing is like, there are so many things during the week that you're not going to do every day, but you might do it like 2 or 3 times a week. So I think having a week kind of plan or a week routine is way more kind of useful as an individual, but also if we can look at like the principles of how you actually stack the important parts of the week together and share like maybe the ideas that we have around that structure, that could be valuable to people.
Yeah, let's go. So, yeah, I saw this is so in my head because I really resisted this video at first, and I'm like, I don't know why. And I think it's partly because I thought it was boring, because I think so much of what we do is just like, it's very structured and it's like, it's the same almost. And I saw a sign in the gym, one of the gyms that we're training at the moment, and it says routine is the enemy of progress, and they have that on the wall, really big letters. And I was looking at it like, no, routine is like everything. Routine is the enabler of progress. Routine is the thing that means that we can be creative, and I definitely feel that. So I think that, I feel like we've figured it out. I feel like we've come from a stage where we really hadn't got it figured out, and then because we've been like training, working together, analyzing all of it, we've got to a stage where it's like, no, this is a really good structure, and this is the sort of principles it's based on.
Yep.
And if you remember before, yeah, probably important to mention is like we didn't kind of magic a structure and magic a framework and magic all this kind of theory and then put it into practice. It was very much make all the mistakes, have all the unimportant, uninteresting, admin-based conversations, and then figure it out and then find a way to make it work.
Well, I think it came from just the drive of like wanting to be successful in business, wanting to be effective in what we were working on, but also then both being really passionate about our training, however that has evolved over the years. So also wanting to be really good at that. And then with training also comes nutrition. And we still also want to maintain a healthy social life and also travel the world. And so it gets to a point when there's so much of stuff that you want to fit into a day. you want to do it so well that the bits that aren't like working or training or eating or sleeping become like real frustrations. And I think we've over the years managed to kind of eliminate all that kind of frictional time and decision making as much as possible to maximize not just the time spent training, working, chilling out, but making sure that's really high quality as well. Because it's super easy, I guess, to kind of confuse some things, or when you're in the gym, be on your phone, and when you're eating, trying to work, or you're out with friends and then an email comes in, you need to deal with it. And I think we found that it's like the worst of both worlds if you can't actually create some boundaries. So I do think that it was out of necessity for like a drive to like be better at all these different areas. That meant you almost need frameworks, you need a pattern to follow, so you actually get the right stuff done over the course of a week.
I think one of the big mistakes that we probably made was just because we didn't have anything in place that was like the default, we talked about it all the time, and it was like, what time do you want to eat dinner? What time do you want to go to the gym? What time do you want to, what are you doing now? And it was always, you have that constant stage of like checking what the other one's doing so that you can like plan your own time as well. And I can't bother with that at all. It's such a waste of life.
Yeah, it's decision fatigue. It wastes time, and like it's really interesting that I only realize how strong that is when like we're then having to make plans with other people, or someone's coming to stay with us and they're like, well, what time's dinner? And like it's almost a joke between us because dinner is always at a specific time. And if one of us kind of says, oh, when are we eating dinner? It's a joke because it's so regimented. And it's not like, it's just because it's one of the things that we just do not spend time talking about, and you just can't. And it's the same for gym times. It's the same for what we're working on at certain days of the week. We might know that this is the thing in, and it's like just eradicate having to even have the conversation about when something's happening.
Something you said before as well reminded me that and it was what you said about wanting to be really good at sport, wanting to be really good at business, wanting to be really good at travel, wanting to have a really good relationship and really good friendships. It's like that whole idea of not compromising on anything. I think that I met anti-role models in that space. Probably when we were running the social media agency. So we used to have a social media agency. We started I started in 2011. Ben joined around 2013, 2014, and then we sold it in 2021. But I think meeting people along that journey who would say things like, oh, if you want to build a really good business, like you can't go to the gym all the time. Like you can't be focused on sport. You have to sacrifice this stuff. Like, oh, you have to make sacrifices to succeed, and just all this stuff. Like, oh, you can't travel the world while building a business. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's like, no, you can't. I can. We can. That was such a big part of wanting to get this in place. But I also think that we'll come on to this later, but I feel like we make quite a lot of very definite decisions about what we don't do, because I don't think it's about cramming in as much as possible, optimizing everything. So you're like, okay, it's 10:02, I'm going to do this. It's 10:04, I'm going to do this. It's more like, nah, I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do whatsoever. But yeah, we'll kind of come onto that in quite a juicy way later. But having the structure is really important. It's the thing that allows for creativity, happiness, peace, health, business growth, everything else. And how we kind of think about it now is with these, like, you've basically got these 3 pillars. The 3 pillars are profession, obsession, and decompression. And what they each mean is profession is the work that you do, like the work that you get paid for. And for us, it's Coach Fox and Forbes. But it's not the work that you do that someone else could do. And it's not the work that you do that's like busy work that like shouldn't form part of your profession. So the idea is that whenever you're spending time working on your profession, it's like it's not the stuff your VA could do. It's not the stuff that like that you really could outsource, you really could get AI to do. It's like, no, this is me, this is my superpowers, this is me at my best.
Yeah, it should be like your kind of flow work. It's like profession, it sounds like it's just a job, but to us it really isn't. It's that highest quality we'll talk about it when we go on to obsession. You've got practice, but really you want perfect practice. You want highest quality time possible. And I think the perfect practice thing lends itself to your profession as well. It really should be like the stuff that you are good at. And it might not be like that now, but as long as you know that the goal is to be like, no, when I'm working, it should be really high quality stuff. And I guess I put working because if you really love what you do, it doesn't feel like it. Especially when it's like, I'm like really well positioned to do this. I'm like in the top 1% to actually execute. There's no one else in the team that can do it as well as me. I believe that it's pushing the company forward. You don't need the kind of motivation to do it. It's just inherent. So it's work, but it shouldn't really, in an ideal world, it doesn't feel like work. It's your kind of, it's your passion. But it's the thing that earns you money, I guess, is the definition. And
there also should be, well, for us especially, there's really big, strong boundaries around this work time. So if one of us is like, I'm putting my headphones in now, I'm working, like this is my thing. It's like, do not disturb them, like leave them to it, leave them to do their magic. And I hadn't realized how like nailed on we had this until we lived for about a month. We had a flatmate for about a month a couple of years ago. I hope he's watching this because that would be really funny if he saw this story. But he's quite funny because he was kind of doing his like work, and then it's like 11 o'clock, middle of the day. He's like, right, I've got this big project to do. And then the doorbell goes and it's Amazon, and Amazon's got this package for him. And he was like just moved into his apartment. So he was still kind of renovating it a little bit. And he got delivered these light bulbs from Amazon, these like special light bulbs that he wanted. And straight away, as soon as he got the package, he like pulls up a ladder and like starts opening it and starts like screwing in a light bulb. And I'm like, Max, what the hell are you doing? You were working. This is important. Like you want to grow your business. You're trying to do all these goals. Like, do you really need to put in a light bulb now? And he's kind of laughing about it. But it's like, no, I'm serious. If you are committed to doing the thing, do the thing. So profession is like, it has to be that time. Otherwise everyone's just wasting their time pretending to work.
Well, especially when he was getting like multiple deliveries a day, like multiple days a week. So it was just impromptu, just breaks here, there and everywhere. And the problem is breaks in work happen all the time. You're task switching. Maybe you do get a call that you need to answer. Maybe someone does come to the door. Maybe you need to make food or whatever. Like there are going to be breaks anyway. So you really have to like minimize what's kind of going on, and being distracted in such a little way to then spend 5 or 10 minutes doing home renovations is not what you want to be doing during work time.
This is very timely that dog outside is just barking. If you watch our last video, you will know that there was a very interruptive dog, and just as you were saying that,
still right on I don't think they can hear it.
Right on time. That's profession, and then after that there is obsession. And so how we define this is the main thing that you do outside of your profession. It's not something that you get paid for. It's like, it could be a hobby, it could be a sport, but it's the goal of this thing is that you want to get as good as possible at it. So even though it's not a commercial endeavor, it's like how do I progress this in some way? How do I turn this into something that I develop mastery over? And it becomes like quite a big part of your being. So for me, it's powerlifting. It's like, I'm going to the gym to do squat, bench press and deadlift, training as best as I possibly can to compete in it. And yours is CrossFit, and it's the same. It's like go to the gym, compete in practice all the CrossFit movements, of which there are far more than just the squat, bench and deadlift, and get as good as possible at like the gymnastics, the weightlifting, the cardio stuff, and then also compete in it when competitions come around. And I think for both of us in our separate sports, they're quite separate to the work we do, but that means that the boundaries have to be there around it to mean that when we're like doing our work, we're not really like thinking about our obsession. And equally, when we're both in the gym, we're not checking emails, we have our phones on airplane mode. It's not like, you kind of don't want those worlds to collide so much that one takes away from the other, because that could for sure happen.
Yeah, and well, a lot of people assume that CoachVox is a platform for fitness coaches and sports coaches. And I think if it was, exclusively, then there would be a huge crossover, because every time we were going to the gym, it'd be like, oh, are you a coach? Oh, you could use our platform. Like there would be really, it would be much, much harder to differentiate between the two, spending time in the gym and spending time working on something that inherently was connected, but it's not. And so I totally agree. I think one thing that's worth mentioning is that it's really useful if your obsession happens to be a sport of some kind.
Yeah.
Because then you don't need to have a separate kind of health and fitness piece in there as well. And I think if your obsession isn't sport related, so you still need to get in your walking or your cardiovascular fitness, your strength training, then I guess that would have to then form the decompression, which is the third part of the framework. So having a sport or something active, at least, as your obsession is an efficient way to live your life. But I think if it is fitness related, or even if it's not, to be honest, even if it is another kind of hobby, it could be gaming, it could be gardening or whatever, I think making it part of your identity has been like massive for us, because as soon as you identify as a competitive athlete, for example, you're not just going through the motions, you're not just filling time going to the gym and working out. It is something that you're genuinely trying to get better at. And because it's an identity thing, you don't have the same issues with motivation. It's not even because like it's a habit and the habit removes the motivation. It's because it's just part of who you are. It's part of who you are to go and train, in our case. And if it's not gym related, it is absolutely, well, I'm a world-class gardener, or I want to be world-class at that, or I want to be the best in the world at gaming. It gives you something to work towards, and it becomes meaningful in your life, not just like something to pass the time, as a pastime would be. And I just don't think over the long term that's fulfilling. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if it is something that you're just doing to chill and pass the time, it's not an obsession. It would have to come in decompression, and that's fine, but it's very different.
I did this, I kind of introduced this framework in a talk on stage a couple of years ago in Bangkok. And afterwards, it was like a bunch of 3 girls, and they came up to me and they were like, so do you have a list of approved obsessions that we could have? Because like, we haven't got any. And it's like, it doesn't have to be a sport. It doesn't have like someone's obsession. A friend actually, his obsession is like dating. He just wants to get really, really good at this because he ultimately wants to find like a long-term partner. But he wants to get really good at the art of dating so that he can reach that goal with it. Which sounds quite funny. It's quite like a nerdy thing, I guess, to apply that kind of thinking and systemized approach to dating. But then other people have said like they've got kids, and so their obsession is just being a good parent, and the idea that they're getting better at that and they're helping their kids progress and develop and that kind of thing. So it could be kind of anything.
I think the main thing is it's intentional, right? It's not something that you just fill your time with. It's something that you want to be good at meaningfully. And ideally, you don't flit around and there's like an obsession of the week, because ultimately you're not necessarily going to get better. And even though you might not want to be like competitive at it, I think there is something meaningful about that continuous improvement, that kind of Kaizen, that mastery, that sense of, oh, I'm achieving something here. I've created like almost like a body of work that's part of my identity, and I'm actually kind of good at this, or I get a better sense of fulfillment because I kind of find flow almost in that obsession part of life.
I think also it makes it really obvious what you do and don't do. Like, remember when paddle's a really big thing right now with like our friendship groups, and they're all playing freaking paddle. And I mean, it's great, because what's actually great is that lots of them now have it as their obsession, whereas they didn't have one before. But sometimes they'll say to us, or they'll say to me like, hey, do you want to come and play paddle? And I'm like, no, I want to squat, I want to bench press, and I want to deadlift. And that's like, we don't need our obsessions to be the same. Like, this is yours and that's really cool, and this is mine. But I feel like I know so much about what mine is that it's easy not to develop like a kind of obsession of the week, so that it keeps you on track. So then decompression is just how you relax, how you switch off. And decompression for me is like basically hanging out with friends, or going for walks with friends, or like maybe it's meditating with friends, or going for dinners with friends, like that kind of stuff. Decompression is not running errands, doing chores, doing anything that is below your like potential as a human being. And sometimes we'll also come on to this later, but if you kind of think around the stuff that should be in your decompression time, if there's anything that you are doing that you could hire someone else to do at an hourly rate that is less than yours, you should be doing that, like, for sure. Like, we don't do any cleaning, tidying, cooking, like anything like that, because it's like, well, it's not my profession, it's not my obsession, and it shouldn't form part of decompression, so therefore get it out of our weekly routine, which then frees you up more to make money, make gains, or just hang out. I think another part of decompression, very different to professional obsession, is like it doesn't need to be kind of optimized or gamified in any way. So I'd say like travel is actually part of our decompression, like just traveling the world, exploring different places. But it's not like we've got some kind of leaderboard like to tick off for anything like that. Like, we're not gamifying any part of that. We're not like treating it as an obsession to continuously improve at. It's just like, yeah, let's go to this city, let's go to this country, let's do this thing, let's go on this food tour, and it's very chill.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know who you think changes the bins and does the dishwasher though. I know you're not doing it, but sometimes like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, sometimes you do, but mainly it's like the cleaner. But yeah, sometimes there's some kind of magic that happens with the bin where it just
Jodie doesn't do any tidying as part of her decompression. Yeah, and I think for me decompression can be walking, which I know is kind of maybe another form of exercising, but walking, being outside is good. I'll do mobility, which again you could say contributes to my obsession, but overall it's more decompression. I guess napping would fit in there for me as well. Don't nap as much as I used to, but that would be a part of it, which I always think
the good old days.
Yeah, exactly. But again, this is another thing. If you're intentional about it, I think it pays dividends. If you can know you can go and lie down and actually sleep, and you set an alarm for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I think you increase your productivity after that. Eating's a big thing for me, and like exploring new cities and going to find good places to eat is a big thing for me. And I listen to the odd podcast and watch the odd YouTube video that is not related to work or training, and that is definitely some decompression. But I do think we both intentionally avoid just like binge watching stuff. Like, I know that there will be people watching thinking, yeah, my decompression is watching X series. But I think that has never really been part of what we've done to decompress. And I wonder if it just never feels like full decompression, because you're like buying into something. It's also can be incredibly time consuming. And it almost becomes a bind, like, oh, I need to, I've got to crack on with this series, or I want to get back to that. So I can't put my finger on exactly why that doesn't form part of it. I mean, we definitely will watch a movie, or we used to go to the movies quite a lot. But I think ultimately decompression for us, because we enjoy training, because we enjoy working so much, decompression actually gets squished to be relatively small, and therefore it needs to be high quality, and it's very intentional decompressing. It's going to a restaurant with friends, it's organizing a meetup with friends, or it's we're going to do this meditation now. It's not, oh, we'll stick something on the telly that might last 3 hours, because that's not the way.
I think when we lived in one place, we used to have a TV until maybe like 2013, and then we just was like, we don't need this in our lives anymore. And then we hire Airbnbs, but we pretty much live in Airbnbs and hotels all the time. But like, I can see a TV, but I wouldn't know how to turn it on, and I'm kind of happy. I wouldn't even want to turn it on. I wouldn't even want to like break the seal with turning that on.
No, because sometimes you turn it on, you're like, oh, there's Netflix and there's this and there's that, and it's like, oh, I could watch this and I could watch that. And I think, in line with when we move somewhere new, we want to set up like the best possible habits. We might come on to this. Having the TV on, or just like sitting down and like, oh, there's nothing else to do, or I don't want to write that article just now, I'm going to put the TV on and see what's on, is a really unintentional way of wasting time, for sure.
So for us, and this is the kind of the basics of it, these are like the pillars: the profession, the obsession, the decompression. And then these form part of what we kind of call like the perfect repeatable day. And so the thinking behind this is, if you didn't plan out your days or your week, you would kind of wake up in the morning, you'd be like, what do I feel like doing today? And it'd be like, okay, this thing's going to happen at this time, and oh, that person wants a meeting then, and yeah, maybe I'll go to the gym when I feel like it, or maybe I'll play paddle at that time when I can organise some friends, or like it would kind of it would go in this way that you ultimately didn't really control that much. And then I think that depending on what kind of person you are, you might find that you get like not actually that much done and not the output that you want to achieve. And you get to the end of the day and you feel quite like unfulfilled and a bit like, oh, where did that go? And like it was a bit of a kind of blur. So the perfect repeatable day, the idea is that structure becomes your default. And sometimes when I talk to people about this, they'll be like, what? I say like the same day that I live like on repeat, isn't that like Groundhog Day? Wouldn't that be terrible? And I guess I'm not saying live your perfect repeatable day every single day, but the idea is that there is a default. There is like a thing that you fall back on that takes the guesswork out of it, that takes the thinking out of it, the decision fatigue, and you just know what time you're doing stuff, and you've got this like structure that you ultimately do really love, that feels like you could do it forever. Like we'll go through kind of our like perfect repeatable days, like separate ones, and how we're doing it right now. But I love it. Like I absolutely love mine. Sometimes I look at my day in the morning and I'm like, I'm so happy with this day. And if I had to live this forever and ever and ever, like cool, I could do this for sure.
Yeah, it's just putting those blocks in, isn't it? That's what we're talking about. We're not necessarily saying the same activity every day. But the pillars. We might know there's a 3-hour work block and a 2-hour gym block for us.
Yeah.
And then we've got in mealtime is here. And so it's just the structure of the nature of your activity, which makes way more sense if you've actually broken things down into profession, obsession, decompression.
Yeah.
Because you basically, if you imagine your calendar, you've basically like 3 colors that you can map the day in. And no, not every single day might be the same. Like we've definitely been places where we've had like an A day and a B day, and the structures are slightly different. Like basically 2 of the sections would be swapped round. But that's why we talk about like having a week's routine as opposed to just having like a single day on repeat. So you don't even need to have the perfect repeatable day after day. But knowing what the default looks like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, some of those might be the same, is just a really great way of being really efficient with your time. And yes, removing when do I do this and when do I do that? And it's not only your own or between the two of us, like when are we doing this week? If someone wants a call, we know we are never going to book it in at a certain time when we know every single day we're going to be in the gym at that time. So it's a good restraint, almost a restriction on doing other things.
This was definitely an anti-role model thing I had, where I was running a business and I was kind of in networks with people who would just be working all the time, and they all had health problems, really, really bad health problems, and they didn't have like sports or kind of things that they did for exercise. It was just like, oh well, it's required of me to work all the time, so therefore I'm going to work all the time. And I think you could work all the time if you wanted to, because it would be easy to. Someone would always have a meeting with you. There would always be an event. There's always something to do. So for me and for both of us, the pillar that goes in first is the obsession pillar. That's the most important one. I feel like there's like maybe a handful of times I've ever missed a gym session for a work thing, but there's probably quite a lot of times where I've missed a work thing for a gym session, like a lot. And so the idea, like I think of my 1 or 2 gym sessions a day as being they're in there at that specific time. It might depend on when the gym's open, because it might depend on when they've got like open gym slots or like that kind of stuff. But they're the things that go in there first, that become the immovable pillars, and everything else happens around that.
Now, some people might think that's crazy. And the reason I know this is because when we first started training in the afternoon, because when we first started running a business, when we had all the time in the world, we would train very first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So we could get into the office with other people at like 9:30, which looking back on it is like crazy. Like you start your own business to have all the freedom and not go to the gym when it's really busy. But we were choosing to do that.
Because we were institutionalized to the system of 9 to 5. So we were just doing 9 to 5.
And we'd invested in a team and a building, like a physical office building that you had to get into to work at. And so we're like, well, we might as well be in there at the time when everyone else is, right? So we used to do that. And then we were like, hang on, this is madness. And we started training in the afternoon. But when people are like, oh, can you speak to me at like 3 p.m., let's say, I don't think in the early days we would have been like, nah, sorry, benching at that time. It would have been like, oh no, I can't do 3. Can we do midday? And they'd be like, well, can you do 3 on Thursday? And I was like, no, I'm squatting, like can't do it. So we wouldn't just say, no, I'm training then. But I think now we would be like, no, I'm training. And that's partly because people know that we are like competitive athletes and take it seriously, and they would respect that boundary. But knowing at what point you can draw the line and be like, no, I can't do that because I am doing my obsession as a hard limit. And that actually is more important than profession, and that you don't just move your obsession because someone else wants a call at that time. That flip is incredibly powerful, because I think 99% of the population, legit 99%, profession comes first, and your obsession works around it. Now, if you're self-employed or you have the flexibility to work remotely or choose your hours, it's an absolute life-changing move to prioritize your obsession over your profession.
2 points on that. I feel like there's a lot of alignment with that and actually what we do, because our business, Coach Fox, we make AI coaches based on real people. And so all our work is around how can you use AI to be more human. And that's like get AI or automations or processes, systems to do like 80% of your work, the work that you actually don't really enjoy doing that could be AI, so that you can focus on the top 20% that uses your superpowers, and then all the rest of the time train, travel, hang out with friends, do whatever the hell you want, but do it like it's in full alignment, because that's the message that we are preaching and also living. Another point as well is like we really encourage our team to do this. We say to them like, yes, you're hired, like you've got a role with us, but like put your gym sessions in, put your like if you want to do your runs in the middle of the day, like do it, plan work around it. So it's very much not just confined to us in our teams.
Yeah, for sure. So that's it. That's have your week in front of you and put in your obsession blocks. And for us, especially because it's training, that also then kind of dictates meal times. So the second thing that actually goes in, even though we don't like time block eating, apart from if it's like a dinner out with friends, for example, because you want to eat, around 3 hours before we train, let's say, and you're going to eat just after you train, it kind of puts other little parts of the day in. But yeah, get the obsession in. And of course, it might not be every single day, depending on what it is. And sometimes it might take a few hours. It might only be a half an hour obsession type thing. But get those in, make them immovable. And that actually starts the structure off of your week.
I think some stuff that has just come into my head is the work because after the obsession goes in, that's when meal times go in, and then profession goes in. And a lot of the time, because I'm at Coach Fox, I'm like head of people, so I do have meetings and I do speak to people, and kind of interaction is like quite a big part of that. But I split my work times into maker time and manager time. And maker's the deep work, the writing, the like in the zone creative stuff, and then manager is the speaking to my GM about what we're doing and having calls with our customers and that kind of stuff. So maker manager is like a really useful schedule, I think. And because I get up quite early, like 6:30 a.m., it's like the first profession block is just the deep work. I don't look at my phone before I've done all my deep work. When I wrote my book, 10-Year Career, it was like, get up and just work solidly on this book for 90 minutes at the start of every single day without fail. And then I wrote it in 3 months, because it's just like focus. And that's only really doable, I think, if you are very intentional about like your maker time. And I would probably protect my maker time just as much as I protect my obsession time. Whereas the manager time, which I have kind of in between gym sessions, is the time where it is a bit more like, you're on a bit of other people's agenda a tiny bit, because you're booking in with other people and having like calls and meetings. But I feel like what most people do is their entire day. Like there's friends who we know, they've got their entire calendar open and someone could just book in, and it's like you got this whole 3-hour juicy block where you could get so much done, and now someone else can just hijack that. And I actually don't have a calendar that people can book into. I don't mind using other people's at all. But I think it's like if you don't protect your own day and protect your own time and your attention and your energy, someone will just like yoink it off you, and then you have like nothing to show for it, and it's madness.
So essentially what we're saying is, after you've got the obsession blocks in, the next components other than meal times potentially, and maybe there are some social events that are happening on a certain day of a week that is like, no, I'm definitely going to that. It's then the deep work blocks, basically.
Yeah, deep work.
They also tend to not be the smaller ones. Like you might be able to write an email in 15 minutes, half an hour, or do some admin tasks in short blocks. But generally deep work is going to be at least an hour, potentially 2 or 3 hours, right? So that would be the next block that you want to put in, assuming your profession has some deep work elements, and both of ours have deep work elements. And I think it's an interesting one here to maybe just mention that we don't necessarily have like a morning routine type thing that you would put in. And the way I'm kind of envisaging this and picturing it, if someone's thinking about their calendar and how to put things in, if the first thing on the agenda for the day was deep work, there would be nothing between waking up and starting deep work. And the same for if the first session was a gym, the goal is to get up and get out the house as quickly as possible to start the obsession. And maybe you've got some points on that, but there is no like specific, right, 6:01 brush teeth, 6:02 do this, 6:03 do this. It's not like that.
I like getting up at the same time every day. And I feel like something I do without fail is like in my head kind of set my intention for the day, or I kind of check in with myself and I'm like, cool, how am I feeling? How did I sleep? What am I ready to do today? And almost get the theme, like the vibe of the day ready to have that. I wrote a book once called Daily Me that was all around that. It was like, how do I want to feel when I get up in the morning? This is my intention for all the day. And they're kind of meditations that help you like choose that. That's a big thing. I wouldn't check my phone. I wouldn't turn on anything connected to the internet for like as long as possible every single day. But then after that, it's like, it's get up and work, or it's get up and train. It's just keep it really simple and get up and train. There's on our rest days, we do a really long run, but like a very, very slow, really long run. And I just want to get out of the house and do that as fast as possible. Like I almost want to be like running while I'm sleeping, so that you've done like the first 5K or something and you don't even realize you're doing it because you're kind of still in that dream state. But then sometimes I think getting up and working, especially when it's the deep work, the maker stuff, you access like your brain is just, it's still in a dreamlike state. You're probably in a different brainwave. If you've set your intention for the day, but you haven't spoken to anyone, you haven't had the chance for like the news or notifications or anything external to cloud your judgment, you probably will do your best work and really put some art down there. So that's a really big part of it as well. Yeah,
and it also means that if your work is meaningful and you are motivated to do it, you should go to bed on Tuesday thinking, yes, I've got 2 hours of deep work on Wednesday, and because I'm not going to check my phone, because I'm not going to check emails, I know that I'm going to spend my first 2 hours doing this thing that I'm good at and I enjoy doing. And that's a really good way of having a good night's sleep, because your body knows that you're going up to do something that it wants to do, not dreading, and you actually get some good quality work done, as opposed to getting up, being reactive, seeing an email that's like, oh, do you know what? I probably should respond to that email, or if you don't respond to it, you're thinking about the response to the email while you're doing the deep work. So I think having that deep work start as quickly as possible is good. And I know some people will probably be thinking, I can't just work straight away, like I need coffee. And oh my, I have been there before, especially at a period at the start of lockdown. I was just like, I'm just completely useless for the first hour of the day. I would just decide to either just write just meaningless stuff, not work related, or I would read or do some language learning, because I'm like, I can't afford to actually try and do some meaningful work here because I'm just not with it. And I think that having thought about it and experimented, I think that was basically a dependence on caffeine, incidentally. And something that helped me was the whole caffeine. Well, caffeine. I was really one of those people that was just like staggering around the house until they'd had the first coffee, and I was like, oh, now I feel normal. I still drink a lot of coffee now, but that the whole 90 minutes without coffee for every day has like massively helped. So that's a recommendation for someone who does feel like they're useless first thing. It doesn't have to be like that. Like do one day where you wait 20 minutes before the coffee, and then the next day do half an hour before the coffee. And if you can get to an hour before having your first coffee, you will wake up not feeling like death, and you will be able to start doing work. And I think if you can do that, especially if you're an early riser, so you can get up at 6:30, which isn't crazy, but you can do your deep work before most people have even got into the office. And that's so good, because by 9 a.m. you're like, whoa, I've done 2.5 hours of deep work. And now I can do, I can do my obsession, or now I can actually do the manager type stuff or send some emails. Yeah,
I really like the feeling. It's a really, really nice feeling of having 2 or 3 hours of deep work as soon as I get up, and then having like first gym session, doing some cardio, doing like a kind of workout like that, not necessarily a strength one, and then coming back, showering, having like a second breakfast, and then just that feeling of like, oh my goodness, I've already done all this stuff and no one's even awake, and it's like, oh, take the rest of the day off. And the kind of funny thing is, you could if you wanted to, and that it's such a level of freedom and satisfaction and purpose and fulfillment that I just really love that feeling. One thing I want to talk about is polarity, because I think this is a theme that comes up a lot that I hadn't even necessarily realized until the 30-day YouTube challenge. I made a video that's called Extreme People Get Extreme Results, and I have a ton of messages around that. And it's the idea that the kind of balance is often overrated, and some people set out to achieve balance. But I think what's better is when you set out to test the edges of something and then you come back to balance. So even the 30-day YouTube challenge was a really good example of that, because it was like, I'm not really interested in this idea of, a cadence of once a week of making videos and seeing how it goes forever and ever and ever. I prefer this idea of 30-day challenge, go all in, be extreme, see what happens, test the edges, learn really fast, get fast feedback, see if you hate it. And then when you've done the 30-day challenge, as it was for me, then figure out what you want to do next, and then kind of decide the balance going forward. And then something that we've mentioned is the TV. Like, we haven't had a TV since 2013. And that's the other extreme. That's like, cut something out completely, see how life is without it. Don't like, oh, I'm only going to watch TV on a Tuesday or something like that. Just go completely cold turkey, and then decide from there what you want to add back in. And that polarized way of operating, I think we do loads. 3 examples. One is we both have like very big goals for like our work and our business and our sports. But we don't really have like yearly goals. We don't really have quarterly goals. We don't really have kind of the small ones. It's like big, big goals or the day to day. And as long as we're doing things day to day that kind of are consistently getting us towards our big goals, then the medium milestones kind of take care of themselves. And I really like working out stuff like that, because really a quarter is just an arbitrary time frame. It doesn't really matter.
Spicy take.
Yeah.
It's not that spicy. It's becoming increasingly less spicy, I think. But I spoke about this at an event once. And basically, goals are overrated. You need to have this long-term vision, which is a goal, but it's more of a kind of general ambition. There might be some specifics there. You wouldn't want to set a non-SMART goal. But the truth is, those goals change and evolve over time. So you don't always know that goal is going to be the same goal in a year's time and 2 years' time. And you have to enjoy the journey, because if you're working towards a goal that then changes, you'll have wasted all that time doing something. And also for the week, month, quarter, you can't dictate where you're going to be, especially sport related. You could get injured, you could get bored, you could do something else. You could have a mini change of heart. Oh, actually, I think this might be the best way of getting to the goal. And also you could get to this week or month and you haven't got to where you want to be, and you get disheartened. You're like, oh, maybe that isn't the goal. And so absolutely agree that these little interim goals are overrated, and that absolutely focusing on the process, the here and now, the day to day, making these perfect repeatable days work for you is the way to get towards the goal. And even if the goal changes, you know that you've been spending the days right.
Yeah, I don't really mind about goalposts moving. I kind of expect my goalposts to move a lot.
They should, I guess.
But then I just want to live every day. I want every day to be different in some way to another day. I want every day to be like, if this is my last day, I'd be like, yeah, I'm happy that I lived it like that. Because I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. So another polarity kind of theme is deep work versus like maker and manager is definitely, but I feel like also within those two, it's like deep kind of hermit mode almost, to the point of ignore everyone. No, I'm not going to answer your call at this time. I'm not going to even like see anything at this time. And then the kind of social butterfly, being out in the world, seeing what happens. Like I really like that you can have these two sides of you, but I think what's in the middle is like, the middle's never good. Actually, what just made me think of is in the middle is actually co-working. Because we are nomadic, and lots of people who are also nomadic go to co-working spaces, and we're always like, no, we're not going to go to co-working spaces. And people are like, why? And I just think it's because it does fit in the middle. It's like, if I want to talk to you, I want to like go out to a dinner or like actually have an event where we're not just like pretending to be working at the same time. Or I want to be like ignoring everyone with my headphones on, just looking at my laptop. And then I don't need any other people around me. So co-working makes no sense because it's just in the middle. And yeah, it's one of the things that is just the polarized way of doing it better.
Don't even get me started on that.
I'm not going to. And then also the third polarity thing is that both of us eat almost the same thing every day, not as each other, as ourselves. And so my breakfast on nearly every day is like literally the same, like 500 calories with 45 grams of protein, and it's like I'm totally fine with it being the same all the time. My second breakfast is pretty much the same every single day. My post-workout is pretty much the same every day. But then
I was just laughing at second breakfast.
I know,
because we say it like normal. It's just totally normal, and it's normal for us and hobbits.
Someone was like, second breakfast, don't you mean lunch? It's like, lunch. What is lunch? But yeah, anyway. But there's loads of variety in dinner because we'll be out at a different restaurant or at a friend's house or doing something else. So I'm also fine with it. It's either like exactly the same or it's like wildly different. I think what we don't really have is a kind of, it might be partly because we're nomadic, but we don't really have those kind of 10 favorite restaurants that we just cycle through, because I would be really bored with that. I like it's either exactly the same every day or it's like brand new. It's kind of the same with outfits, isn't it? It's like tank top and Daisy Dukes or something like wild and then nothing really in between.
Yeah, it's another decision thing though, isn't it? Because it's like you've got a default, and if it's not the default, then just like full send, whatever it is. Because even with eating out, there's probably is, for us, we've got, if you're going to go to Nando's, you kind of know what you're going to get from Nando's, but it's not like eating out like at a nice place. It's just like, that's my meal for tonight. It's going to be Leon or Nando's when we're living in London, because you just kind of know what you're getting.
Yeah.
But that's not obviously eating at a nice restaurant.
But then because eating at a nice restaurant is actually quite a big part of like our kind of decompression, it's like which Michelin star can you go to, or which triple Michelin can you find, and making that a thing that is a thing. So it's like, yeah, just playing with the extremes is way better than finding some kind of balance. So yeah, so the idea is you get your 3 pillars and you put them into your perfect repeatable day. You define which one is the most important, and then everything else revolves around that. And you're happy that some things are going to just be the same every single day because it reduces the decision fatigue, and then you decide where you're going to flex and be crazy.
And on that as well, there might be things, depending on work as well, that there could be something that comes in that's like immovable or a chance of a lifetime. And it's not to say, oh no, sorry, I can't come and meet the king because I'm squatting that day. It's like,
I think he would understand.
Maybe he probably would. He might be squatting as well. Maybe he would do a gym session with us. But the point is that, yes, it's not set in stone, it's the default. And it might well move for these once in a lifetime opportunities, or you get the chance to go somewhere for a conference for 2 days and you're going to be speaking and it's a big thing. Sure, you move it, and maybe you try and keep as best as possible, you keep your daily structure, which is what we try and do when we travel. Even when we're at conferences, we'll try and get our structure as close to being what it should be, but it's there as a default, so you're not making these decisions every single day.
I think one thing we haven't mentioned is travel time. So when we were living in one place, the whole thinking was around a triangle, and the triangle was home, work, gym, and how do you make that triangle as small as possible? And at one point we got it down to a mile, and then I think we got it back down to like maybe like a 3-minute walk or something like that. And then in COVID, because we had our gym in our apartment and we worked in our apartment and we lived in our apartment, our triangle was like a meter, and that actually sucked. But I think the idea that traveling to somewhere for like some kind of commute is part of a perfect repeatable day is like a terrible idea. And you'll often find people saying like, oh, I don't mind. And I think I don't mind are like the 3 words that kill potential and also keep people really accepting not the best for themselves and playing quite small. Because yeah, you don't mind getting the tube, but do you really want to? Is that how you would choose to spend your last day on earth? Like, probably not.
It's very easy to rationalize it as well. Say, oh, well, I don't mind it because I get to listen to a podcast for half an hour on the commute. But it's kind of like, but if you didn't have the commute, would you be listening to the podcast? Because you probably wouldn't. You'd be doing your obsession, or you'd be actually doing some deep work. Like, it really is a killer of time, to the point that we don't even go out to coffee shops to work. Certainly not by default. Sometimes we do for a change of scenery, if we want to do some like lighter work, we want some more inspiration. But our triangle is just a line now, because we work and live in the same place. We get Airbnbs where it's a good working environment, where the internet's good. But if every single day you've even just got like a 10-minute round trip to a coffee shop, but you've then got to set up, you've got to make sure the Wi-Fi is working, you've got to make sure someone's watching your laptop if you go into the bathroom, you have to buy a coffee every hour. I don't know what the acceptable rate of coffee buying is in a coffee shop. It's just frictional time, and it's so under the guise of, oh, I work better in a coffee shop or whatever. But you need to sort yourself out. If you need to be in a coffee shop to work better, like just sort yourself out. It's just that simple, because you're still looking at the same screen, you're still in your same body. Just because there's other people you don't know clanging around, that somehow makes it better. Like
I feel like coffee shops are loads better since they've been part of our like decompression, where you can just go to have you can go to a specialty coffee shop and you just go and chat, and it's like either a social thing or it's a kind of decompression thing, or it's just like a chilling out thing. I feel like that's a lot better than trying to make them workspaces and almost trying to combine. But that comes back to the idea that profession, obsession, decompression, they should be separate, and they shouldn't be multitasking in between them, because the separation sometimes is really nice for just the best ideas, the best working environment. One thing I definitely want to mention, because I feel like this is a challenge that we have overcome that we might not have realized that we've overcome. And that is having the confidence to just do this at all. Because I think that when you are strong in your own routine, your own convictions, your own, like, this is what I want to do, I think that sometimes the wrong people, they get kind of offended by it. It's almost like you are so sure and you are so intentional and you are so confident in what you want to do that it's like holding up a mirror to them. And it's not really about you, it's about them not living the life of their dreams because they haven't planned it, or they haven't put their boundaries in place, or they haven't chosen what they won't accept. And so you might find that you put this in place and other people give you shade for it. And that might be, what do you mean that you have to go to the gym? Like, oh, you're so obsessed with this. And it's like, yeah, I know, it's my obsession. But they'll say obsessed as if it's like a bad thing. And then there might be the kind of, oh, you're being selfish, or you're like all these words that you might get thrown at you for acting a certain way. But really, what I have found in the longer term is the more you know what you want and the more you stick to it and the more you are very proud to stick to it, the more that it enables people to do the same for them. And it's this really nice energy that I think we're in now with our friends, with our families, where it's like, I'll do me and you do you, and that's fine. And that means that it kind of works both ways. So I don't expect anyone to say to me like, oh, what do you mean you're eating that? Or what do you mean you're training at this time? Or what do you mean you can't do this, or that kind of thing. But equally, I wouldn't do it to anyone else. So if I invited someone out to something and they said, oh no, I can't, I'm playing paddle at this time, I wouldn't be like, what do you mean? You don't have to do that. Do this instead. It's loads better. There would be no sense of trying to change anyone else, because I don't want people to change me either. And it's I think the barrier to get over at the start might be some kind of peer pressure, people pleasing, keeping up with the Joneses, wanting to keep everyone happy, almost kind of keeping yourself smaller and making compromises that you don't want to make just to like not fall out or something like that.
Yeah, it's basically related to boundaries.
Yeah.
To keep a weekly structure that is it's regimented, but with flexibility within the pillars. But to really regiment, no, this is when I'm doing my obsession. This is when I'm doing my deep work. This is when I'm eating. If you've never done that before, you've never had to say to someone, no, sorry, I can't because this reason, or no, I'm going to bed at 9, so I can't come out at 8. You need hella strong boundaries. And I think that will be the biggest thing that people will find. And we've had this like over years. You become battle hardened to it because we wouldn't have just adopted all these things in one go. At first, it was like, oh no, we're not going to watch TV. Oh no, we're not going to drink alcohol. Oh, we're going to go to the gym at this time. Oh, that means we're going to eat at this time. That means we need to be in bed at this time. Like, you are creating a boundary one at a time.
Yeah.
And with this, if you're adopting a kind of perfect repeatable day, perfect repeatable week, and you've defined your obsession, and now you're identifying as a marathon runner, even though you haven't run a marathon yet, you are going to need to have boundaries. And it's really easy on paper to be like, yeah, I've got strong boundaries. But then when all your friends are like, oh, but I've got a party coming up, do you not want to come to my party? And you're like, no, I need to train for a marathon. That's hard. That's when it's going to become difficult for people. And especially when it's friends, especially when it's family, especially if you've never had this before, you will feel some kind of, especially with the kind of strong identity, maybe even a sense of imposter syndrome. What do you mean you're a marathon runner? Like you're 10 stone overweight. Like you're never going to be able to run a marathon. What, one missed training session? Like that's not going to make a difference over the course of a year. I don't know why I'm doing it. Does anyone have a phone like this anymore? People will not respect your boundaries, but it relates exactly to what you're saying. If you want people to respect your boundaries, you have to respect theirs. There's absolutely no way you can say to someone, oh, hey, do this, don't do this, whatever. If you want them to respect your boundaries, it works both ways.
I feel like the thing that keeps me going with this and really enjoying it is that like it just works. That's the cool thing. I almost feel like if someone was starting this from scratch and they were like, okay, I'm gonna have a structure and I'm gonna make all this stuff, you might not know straight away because it takes time for things to work eventually. But then they always do work out. And I'm thinking some of the things that people say to us now where I shared a picture on LinkedIn the other day where I looked pretty ripped in it because it was really good lighting and it was on this podcast. And someone was like, oh my God, how do you get that? Like, how do you get that in shape? I need your gym routine. And I was like, honestly, like start 10 years ago and just don't stop. And then people will say stuff to us, like, how do you guys get on so well? And it's like, well, start a long time ago and just don't stop. Like just the more you just put in place the basics, the more that like the compounding just happen again and again. And we've seen that with like our relationships, our friendships, our travel, business, the last business that we sold, and fitness, just again and again and again. And this is the boring stuff. This is like the boring basics that everyone overlooks because it's almost like someone sees that picture and then they just want that one weird trick that just like gets you into shape straight away. I'm going to be like, oh, well, did you know everyone else is doing this thing? But this is the secret. But it's like, no, there is no secret. It's just choose what you're doing and then do it again and again and again and put other stuff aside so that you can just focus. Like it just works. That's what I'd put on a billboard.
Yeah. And as you're doing it and as we've done it, because you adopt the right habits and the right patterns, you're just becoming a little bit more efficient. You realize that this system works a little bit better for you. This situation or this routine works better. And then you're just improving everything by just 1 or 2% each week. You're like honing that routine so it works for you and works for your obsession, works for your profession. And if every single day you're cutting 15 minutes off, your commute to the coffee shop now because you're not doing that anymore, or you're managing to get to sleep 10 minutes earlier because you're actually not watching Netflix all night, that 10 minutes of sleep every single night over the course of like a month would make a huge difference to your energy levels and well-being. Not wasting quarter of an hour every day to and from a coffee shop is over an hour a week, which over the course of a month is half a day. Like if you just could magic half a day extra every month to do a piece of deep work, that one thing you've been putting off for however long. And these are just like two tiny examples. But when you think there's so many different parts of the day that you can just make that little bit efficient, it sounds regimented, but it just opens up these gaps. And removing stuff is just as powerful as trying to add stuff in to become more productive. Like 100%, if you want to be more productive, take stuff away.
Do less.
And I guess we're going to come on to the start, stop, less, not more at some point. I don't know if there's other framework stuff that you want to discuss.
I wanted to say that I think part of how we stay on track is that we use each other to help each other stay on track.
Yeah,
and this comes back to, there's something I kind of wrote about a little while ago around the kind of relationship flywheel. And the idea that every relationship you have is either making you stronger or making you weaker or making you better or making you worse or making you higher energy or lower energy and so on. And we have there's some kind of flywheel that we've got in work and in training where it's like, in a training sense, if Ben does my program and then I do really well at it and then I do well at a competition, he wants to then be a better coach to be like, well, how can I take it to the next level? And then I get a better program and then I get better and he's like, oh my God, the next level. And it's like this thing where you're kind of leveling up each other. And we had it the other day, or like quite a lot actually. If you're like I want to really, really get in amazing shape and I want to make different eating habits. And then at some point you're like, oh, I really want this 5 scoops of ice cream instead of 4 scoops of ice cream. And I'm like, hey, totally up to you, but do you want the 5th scoop? And then it's up to you to say, yeah, I want the 5th scoop, or no, I don't want the 5th scoop. But the idea is that you're just helping someone else just get that moment of lucidity where they can make sure that they are making the right decision with what they want to do. And it's up to you. And I would never be like, oh, do you really think you should, or anything like that. It's not any judgment. It's just giving someone that moment to go, yeah, you're right, I actually don't want it. Or no, I really do.
Word of warning though, before you do start saying to your other partner, the other half, well, are you sure you want to eat all that food right now, babe? You might want to communicate beforehand at some point when someone's not about to put something in their mouth. Hey, look, we're both trying to get in shape. Sometimes when we're out and about, the impulse is to have more. Would it be smart if we just kind of gave ourselves a little bit, hey, just have a second, think about if you really want this. But and it doesn't have to just be eating, it could be all sorts.
Yeah, work stuff, It
could be choosing the hard thing to do, it could be not going to the gym, it's all these things.
You've said to me before, if you've been like, do you need to be on your phone right now? And I've been like, no, you're right, I don't need to. And then that's based on me saying, I want to be on my phone less. So it's like they have to invite it.
Yeah, it has to be agreed that it's okay to do it, because otherwise the response is going to be, yes, I absolutely do want this 5th scoop of ice cream, and you're just going to eat it. I'm going to have a 6th scoop of ice cream because I can do what I want. It has to be like an agreed thing. And it has to be brought up in a way with kindness, as you mentioned, like, oh, are you sure you want that, you fat git? It has to be, are you sure you want that? You can make that decision, but just having that person on your shoulder saying, just take a second, is this actually what you want to do? Is it serving your long-term goals? Is there a better alternative here? Is so helpful.
Yeah.
And I think if you can be that for someone else and have that for you, that is where you can build that strength together and improve each other's choices. And that builds into your day and your week structure and how you get better.
And the opposite of that, because we have seen the opposite of this quite a lot of times, you can imagine it. So you've got a couple, this could be a couple of friends, this could be a romantic couple, it doesn't matter. It could be business partners. One of them goes, hey, should we get a pizza? The other one goes, yeah, let's get a pizza. The other one goes, should we go for ice cream? Yeah, let's go for ice cream. Oh, do you want another glass? Oh, yeah, let's have another glass. Oh, yeah, tomorrow. Do you want to the gym today? I kind of don't fancy it. No, me neither. It's like again and again and again. And you keep stacking these really bad habits and you keep egging each other on and making mediocrity okay. And then it goes on and on and on. And then diabetes, or you just die. It's never going to get good, and you're never going to be the best version of yourselves. You're going to basically keep getting worse, and you're going to keep okaying it with each other. And it's like, you just want this positive flywheel instead. So the last couple of things are, I want to mention something that we kind of call a freedom team. And the freedom team, and the idea behind this concept, is that if you are running your perfect repeatable day, and the goal of it is to clear out friction and do the work that only you can do, and do your obsession and be able to fully switch off, we sometimes run kind of thought experiments around like the people that we either do hire already or the people that we will hire in the future to facilitate that perfect repeatable day and that peak life ultimately. And there's like these different roles that you have in place to help. And so some of the ones that we've talked about before have been things like a chef who makes all your meals for you, puts them in the fridge for you, or maybe they live in your house and they just make you meals all the time. And then like cleaner and kind of laundry person and someone who just comes in and just deals with all that kind of stuff, so you never have to think about anything to do with any kind of housework, changing the bin or like washing or whatever. And then kind of thinking bigger, it's like, imagine if you had a driver that was just there all the time to take you wherever you wanted to go, so you never had to think about like traffic or driving yourself or calling an Uber. And then even a pilot, if your goal is to be like a super baller, then that's the next level up. But two of the ones that are really cool, I think, and also very important to us, and this is beyond the kind of core business team, like a general manager, an ops manager, that kind of thing, is a VA who does the stuff that you want to do, but it's stuff that they love doing. And that's someone who you can just have like on WhatsApp or email, who you just give stuff to. And the idea for us especially is, it's like, what are we doing in our work and our kind of house admin that someone else could do? And how do we just get this off to them as soon as possible, be able to just voice note them and say, hey, do this thing. And they come back and they know what you want and they know your preferences and they know how to organize something for you.
Examples would be useful, I think.
So things like when we went traveling around New Zealand for 5 months, and our VA did things like booked all the Airbnbs, the driving times between each of the different places. She like put them in the calendar and was like, leave at this time, here's the gas station, here's where you need to go on the way, that kind of stuff. Stuff like organising the hire car and getting it so that you can just go there and pick it up and you don't have to think about that.
Shortlisting gyms and like their opening hours, and if they did day passes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the kind of stuff where you could do it, you probably wouldn't mind doing it, but your best self does not do admin like that, especially not travel admin. One thing that was quite funny is when we got to each place, she also gave us a list of the restaurants that we might like to go to, and she loves Italian food. So it was like, there's quite a lot of Italian restaurants on this list, and we're not like majorly into Italian food, so we had to be like, hey, do this instead. Like, this is the kind of stuff to look for, or like look for really out there stuff, but not these kind of things. So there's a bit of figuring it out first, but there's always going to be a bit of figuring it out first, and then you get to this stage where you've got this person who you trust entirely, who know you really well. Ideally, you like them and they like you as well, because then they'll want to do a really good job for you, and you get to the stage where you're like, what did I ever do without them? That's a VA who could be like virtual, they could be living anywhere. But I also really like the idea of a fixer. And so this is someone who maybe actually could travel with you, and they do things like they check you in at hotels before you get there, or you go out for dinner with friends. And the worst bit of a dinner with friends is when you have to organise the bill. And ideally, someone just goes, yeah, I'll get it, and then they sort it out. But that doesn't happen in every friendship group, and that's not always exactly how it works. And so having some kind of fixer who just takes care of that, and then maybe they get everyone's bank details later, I don't know. But they just sort stuff out so that you can just either be profession, obsession, or decompressioning, and you don't have to think about admin, friction, anything else.
Yeah. I think the whole idea of thinking about your freedom team, the value in that exercise is twofold mainly. The first is that you kind of create this abundant mindset. You think, in an ideal world, who would do stuff for me? What could life be like? And for me, I'd have a masseuse, I'd get a massage at least once a day. And that's a cool thought experiment, because it's actually deep down, if money was no object, what do you really want? And that might come up with some surprises there. But it will also highlight to you all the things that you're doing that you should not be doing, because you're like, oh, well, I'd get them to do that. I'll get them to do that. And you're like, whoa, I'm doing all of this completely menial stuff like that I should not be doing. So I think there's value in that freedom team, even if you think you are miles off potentially hiring someone to do any of these things. Although certain parts of the world, these roles would be super cheap, and a VA definitely can be super cheap because they're virtual. So you're probably way closer to getting these individuals than you think if you don't already have some. But I think just the thought experiment itself is useful.
And you also, like you mentioned, limiting money beliefs potentially, but you run this exercise, like the thought experiment freedom team exercise, and then you kind of start to understand where you're holding yourself back. Because if it's, oh, well, I would never give a VA access to my bank account, or I would never let someone else choose what hotel I stayed in, or I would never let someone else do this. You're like, but why? And because we talk to people about it sometimes, and they'll be like, what, your VA does this for you, or does that? Like, how can you trust someone that much? And it's like, but it's so good. You get lots of people fixating on all these ways it could go wrong, but what if it went right? So it's like there is a dream scenario out there. You might have to kiss a few frogs before you find it, but you could find it.
And ultimately, you're just basically telling them what they need to Google most of the time, right? Like back in the day, it would have been find a gym with a squat rack, and now it's find a CrossFit gym with open gym that you can join. Like it's not. They're only doing the research that you would be doing. Maybe not for every single task, but a lot of them will be.
So we have three exercises that if you are with us still and you're like, yeah, I want to do this, I want to make my pillars, I want to put my perfect repeatable day together, what are the kind of practical things that you can think about to make this a reality? The first one is an exercise that I run all the time, every time I feel a bit like, oh, something's not quite grooving. And it's called Stop, Start, Less, More. And the idea is that you take a blank piece of paper, you draw a line down the middle horizontally, a line down the middle vertically. I knew I was going to get that. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Anyway, line down the middle. And then you write start, stop, less, more. And you think of your life and your week and the stuff you're doing at the moment. And then you kind of run that thought experiment. What should you do less of? What should you just cut out altogether? The obligations, the commitments, the things you've outgrown, the things you don't really want to do, the 7 out of 10s that are taking the space of the 10 out of 10s. Have like an honest inventory, like an audit of your life, and put things into those 4 boxes. This is where it starts, because the rest of it, the kind of profession, obsession, decompression, the perfect repeatable day, doesn't work if you're trying to fit in everything that doesn't even fit your life now or your priorities now. If you try and fit them all in, it's not going to work. Something's going to break and you're going to end up just like spinning your wheels for no reason. The next exercise.
Whoa.
More.
The thing that is most important is that I don't think you said, so we'll have to cut this out if you have, is you have to start with the stop and less boxes.
Yeah, so you start with stop and less, and then after that, it's choosing what you want to add in once you've cleared the space.
Yeah.
I didn't say it's succinctly.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everyone was there, because everyone falls for addition bias, which is like, I want to do more stuff, I want more output, therefore I need to write more blogs this week, I need to do this, I need to hire another person. But actually, if you're trying to just crush it for a bigger proportion of your week, and you just think, I just need more quality time doing deep work, I need more quality time doing my obsession, the first place to start is to stop doing stuff you shouldn't do, or do less of the stuff that you're doing that you just should not be spending as much time doing.
I also want to tell you that Ben is using Crush It, ironically. That's not like it's not really, like, come on. You don't mean crush it, you mean like crush it, like it's funny.
Yes, I am. Okay.
The thing that Crush It always makes me think of is a friend who, he was a client of our agency, and he had 7 VAs. And that was because he started off with 1 VA, and then his 1 VA got full up, so he hired another one. And then that VA got full up, and then he hired another one. And you can see where this is going. And it's because he fell for addition bias, which is just, oh, I need another VA. And it's like, no. Go and look at all your existing VAs and see what they should stop doing and do less of, and then decide which of these things that they're doing don't contribute to your overall goals, and then like audit that before you just keep adding VAs. So yeah, thank you.
That's okay. His definition of crushing it was just to have as many VAs as possible, because he was super important. Yeah.
So next exercise is your dream life exercise. And this is where this also starts with a blank piece of paper, as all the best things do. This is where down the left-hand side, you would write every day, every other day, every week, every month, every year. You could put quarters in there, you can put every other week in there, whatever you want, just these time increments. On the right hand side, you write down the things that you want to do in each of these increments. So the things that you want to do every single day, like train or cuddle your other half or have a meal out or whatever it is, just whatever forms part of your absolute dream day, put that into the day and then repeat this for each of the time frames. And the reason it's important to have so many of them there is because there are some things that you love and you love that they're part of your life, but you actually don't want to do them every day. Once a week would be fine. Like, I don't think we could handle a Michelin star meal every single day. Maybe not even every week, but definitely one.
Our max is 3 a week. We've done 3 Michelins in 1 week in a kind of tour that we did.
Yeah,
but I think
normally it's
even
like
1 a week would be a lot.
Yeah, it's like 1 a fortnight or like that kind of thing. We actually used to have going to a theme park every quarter in our dream
Not
life.
doing so well on that right now.
Not doing so well on that right now, but whatever it is, put them down. Everything that you can think of. If I was planning out my dream day, week, year, what would be in it? And then also on this piece of paper on the right hand side, cost it out. So if your dream day involves something that's going to cost you, like you want to have a coffee out every single morning because that's how you want to plan and set your intention for the day, and a coffee each morning is going to cost like whatever number of dollars. Put that down there. Do it for every single line on your list, and then at the end work out what it costs in a year. And so we did this exercise, had down like our absolute dream life, then costed it all out. And the number that it came out with was like ridiculously small compared to what you'd think it would be. And then this was a really powerful exercise when I did it, because I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is my dream life with everything I love doing, with all the work I love, all the places I love, all the people I love, all the things I love doing. And it's like, it's so freaking accessible. And then you feel this great sense that it's doable, and you can just live your dream life like every day, and you don't know any reason that you wouldn't, because it's the calculations there.
Yeah, I think originally it's a financial freedom type exercise, because you're trying to work out how much do you need to actually sustain your dream life, and then you work out how much you would have need to have created or have as passive income or whatever to fund that. And obviously, if you have really expensive tastes and you want to buy a designer handbag every week or something, that's going to skyrocket the monthly living expenses. But for us, I think for most of our friends, the things that you put in are like, cuddling your partner is free. It's going for a walk is free. Going to the gym every day, it's just the cost of the gym membership per month.
Yeah.
And so many of these things are very low cost or even free. It's amazing that, the actual total won't be there. I think some other cool ideas to put in there are like, actually putting in, I want to go for a week's holiday every quarter, or I want to go for a weekend break every month. Those are the kinds of things that I think a lot of people, including us, you think it would be really nice to do these things and you just never get around to doing it. But actually saying, no, my ideal life looks like this. And you know what? It's not the finances that are stopping me doing this. It's literally just booking it. I think that's when you can start creating your plans, whether it's a weekly plan, monthly plan, quarterly plan, actually just doing the things that you have been working all this time to do. Because it's also related to the idea of like where there is. We always used to be like, when we get there, we'll have this and we'll have this and we'll do this. And then you realize, oh no, hang on, we are there. Like that's exactly what we have, the freedom to do all these things.
You're already living your dream life.
You have the capacity to live your dream life. You're just not booking the things in.
Yeah, when we did this exercise, we were 3 years into running an agency. It was called JC Social Media, which stood for Jodie Cook. It was like my name was above the door, and it was the Jodie show. Everything relied on me. All the clients had to speak to me. I was in every single meeting. All the team members relied on me. Nothing happened without it being run by me. And then we did this exercise. And then it was like, how do we just make our dream life happen? And what we did was we threw ourselves in the deep end. We booked a 5-week trip to Australia that was 3 or 4 months into the future. And we were just like, let's book the flights and let's just make this happen. And then working back from that meant that we systemized and made processes and trained people up and got the company completely self-sufficient so that we could get on the plane and go to Australia, because part of us living our dream life was not having a business that kept us in one place, and it involved traveling for 1 month in every 3. So It's like you get that plan down, you put one action in place to booking something, and then everything happens as a result of you doing that. I would actually say you could give that plan to your VA and get them to hold you accountable to living your dream life. And then a really good VA as well would say, how can I help facilitate this? Like, how can I help you live your dream life? And so dream life exercise. And then the last one is to actually lay out your perfect repeatable day. So if we've still got you now, then you're not too put off by the idea of putting this together. So if you lay out every single waking hour of your day, imagine that you had to live the same day on repeat. What would it look like? How would you put your obsession pillars in first, or which one's the most important to you? Maybe your obsession isn't the most important to you, but how would you put your main pillars in first? Whatever they are, and then plan other stuff around, plan meal times, and get your perfect repeatable day. One thing to mention is there probably will be some constraints. So if your obsession is like a gym and training in a gym, then it's going to have opening times. If your obsession is eating out at fine dining restaurants, then you probably want to go around the meal times, or you at least want to go when the restaurant's open. So have those kind of things in there. If your decompression as well involves other people, there's going to be some kind of aligning of diaries, but put it in place so that you've got your kind of V1, and then all that is left to do after that is test it out. And then you've got professional obsession, decompression, perfect repeatable day, and it's all building up to you living your dream life and ultimately working towards whatever your big, audacious, scary goals are. You don't need midterm goals then. You don't need balance. You've got balance in everything that you do, because it's so sustainable.
Yeah, and doing this exercise last enables you to factor in the start, stop, less, more stuff. So you shouldn't have, in your ideal day, even week, you shouldn't have these things that you're planning on stopping doing it. You should have things that you want to start or do more of. And if you've also done the perfect life exercise, you'll know, well, if you wanted to do something every day, like that should be in there. If it wanted to be every other day, then you might need a secondary day where that's the thing. Or over the course of a week, maybe one or two of those days don't look like that perfect repeatable day, so that you know that every Saturday, this is the thing that you're going to do because that was something that you wanted to do every week. And of course, we often will be somewhere different, and like our perfect repeatable day might change because we're in a different location, and so the gym times might be different, or we might be in a hotel, and so we might have the hotel breakfast which is served at a different time, and so our daily structure might be different. Or even in the same place, we might have like an A day and a B day because we just want to change up the structure of each day. And that goes for like, my day and Jodie's day if it's different as well. But of course, yes, weekend might be different again, but it's totally cool to have this perfect repeatable day by default. And that might speak for 5 days a week. It could speak for all of it, but you might have an A week, and then the Saturday and Sunday looks different. But that's going to facilitate all the different things that you want to put into your perfect week. And that's why kind of looking at your week's routine, which I think in general can be pretty well replicated week on week, is kind of more useful than just looking at the kind of perfect day routine, despite everything we've said about having the perfect repeatable day. But it's a slightly different principle.
And I think in all of it as well, forget what normal people are doing, forget what you think you should be doing, forget what other people say is conventional, that you don't need to, like, a Saturday doesn't have to be a weekend for you, a Monday doesn't have to be a weekday for you. It's like, we've got all these different conventions and terms that we've assigned meaning to, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to, just because you're in Spain and everyone eats dinner at 9 p.m, you can still eat it at 6, it's fine, you can just do your thing. And just because everyone else is doing this stuff on Sunday, just because everyone else observes bank holidays, all of this stuff, it's like, you just don't have to do it, because otherwise I think you end up being that person who has started like we were in 2012, they've started their own business because they think they want freedom, and then they create themselves a prison and they just do all the stuff that normal people do, and they get the worst of both worlds. Like, we want the best of all worlds for us and for you as well.
Is that a wrap?
Yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed this. We would love to get your thoughts in the comments of what you thought of this video, if there's anything you have already put in place that we've talked about, or if this video has sparked any changes for you and any stuff that you think you're going to do, either the exercises or things that you're going to put into your life that you didn't put in before.
Yeah, tell us your perfect repeatable day. What are the things you're doing every week, every month, every quarter? That's really interesting because until you do that exercise, you don't actually know what that looks like. So hearing yours would be super cool.
And also your professional obsession decompression. And if you, I don't think you'll want ideas, but sometimes people want ideas. But if you could define yours, what are they? Because putting them down in a comment on YouTube is also a really nice way of fully committing to them.
Absolutely. We'll catch you in the next one.
That was the fourth in the series of Chats with Ben, where we went deep into our daily routines and our weekly routines and shared tips, exercises, frameworks that will hopefully help you live your peak life and create the output that you dream of creating. Really hope you enjoyed that. We would love to hear from you in the comments. Definitely click like on this video if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this one.